So here's the deal. If we have square roots that we are multiplying, whatever is under the radical and we're multiplying, we multiply and the product goes under the radical. Okay. Yes. If there are coefficients to your radical, you're going to multiply those. Now, chances are, after you multiply the coefficients, after you multiply the radicals, there's a good chance the product under the radical is a number that needs to be simplified. Okay? So you're going to multiply the numbers outside, multiply the numbers inside the radical, and then simplify if you need to. It's very simple. Yes.
For like number 3, you would do 5 times -7 first.
Yes. Okay, so how about we talk about number 1 first? Will that work? Okay, so what number is in front of square root 8? Okay, so I'm just going to put a 1 there just so we think about it being there. Okay, so we're going to multiply the numbers on the outside, the coefficient. So we're taking 1 times -3. What is that? Okay, then under the square roots, we have 8 times 2. What is that?
16.
That is 16. So we have -3 square root 16. Are we going to leave it like that? What is the square root of 16?
4.
So our answer really is -12. Now that problem worked out pretty nicely, but it doesn't get that much more complicated. Multiply outside, multiply underneath, simplify. Okay. In number 2, when we multiply the numbers on the outside, what do we get?
-1.
When we multiply the numbers underneath, what do we get? So we have, if you write -1, that's fine, but really it's negative radical 6. Can radical 6 be reduced?
No.
Kind of gave that away because I circled the answer as done, but that's fine. You're not going to be upset about that, right? Okay. All right, we're going to do number 3 together, and then we'll see what you can do with number 4. So on number 3, Brooks, you had mentioned this earlier. What do we need to multiply together first? And if we take 5 times -7, we get -35. Now let's take our radicals. 10 times 12. Okay. Is this a simplified radical?
No.
Oh. Okay. 120. 30 times 4. Okay. And 30 does not have a factor of a perfect square. 30 is 5 times 6. So I think we're okay. I think 4 is the highest perfect square that divides into 120. So if this is the case, we have -35. We know that the square root of 4 is 2. So our answer is -70 square root 30. What'd you say? Yeah.
Oh, 4 times -30.
Oh, this be your Vanna White. Okay.
Oh,
Wheel of Fortune. And she walks across and touches the letter. Yes. Okay, you and your elbow partner. Number 4.
Free skin for elbows. Free skin for elbows. Easy skin. Put it here. Hanging out. All the above, really.
Knuckles.
He
Counted.
got it. Never heard of knuckles, but. Is that the
I
new
put
term?
my brother nuts.
Yeah, I've heard of nuts.
Mom failed him as a baby, so.
My mom's not a failure. She raised me right. Program as a failure. Yeah, you know I said. Say no tomorrow. Not even 1-1, so 1-1. You read out the numbers. Worse than a 4.
All right. Gabe, what did you get for your final answer? Square root 28?
Yeah.
Who has a different answer? What do you have? Truffles?
-32 divided by 7.
Is your name Truffles, Henry? I thought she was.
She, I mean, I pointed,
And then it also said Truffles.
I didn't hear that.
He- everyone was just really, you know what? You are saying the same answer. Okay, so let's talk through. So Gabe's answer isn't wrong, but it's not simplified.
Count that on a test.
Okay, so this would not be a full credit answer because square root of 28 is not simplified. Okay, if the number under the radical can be divided by a perfect square, it's not simplified. We know that 28 has 4 as a factor. What? Okay, so let's talk through this. Yes, Brooks?
Is there like an easier way to figure out numbers? So like if I had 112 under there, is there an easy way to know?
Yeah, so, okay, so you're saying that you had -8 square root of 112, right? Okay, so if you didn't want to figure out the biggest perfect square, all right, I know that this is obviously 14 times 8, right? And 14 is 7 times 2, 8 is 2 times 4, and 4 is 2 times 2. So if you don't want to think about the biggest perfect square, you can say, all right, I have -8. So -8, here comes out a 2, here comes out of 2, and 7 is the loner that stays underneath. So that is one way we can get to that answer. Otherwise, you're thinking of the biggest perfect square that divides into 112. Now let's talk about what Gabe did. Gabe was like, oh, 112 is 4 times 28, correct? So he was like, okay, -8 times 2 square root of 28, which is fine, but 28 we know is 4 times 7. So now we're gonna have to go one more time to simplify that square root of 4.
I get it.
Okay, so Ellery, what can I do for you? Okay, so maybe you take out a perfect square, but you still need to think to yourself, is this as simplified as it can go? If you do your factor tree, you pick out all of the doubles and you get them out. Or you gotta use your brain a little bit to process, is this as simplified as it can go? Okay.
He was just like so Who are you talking to?
It's not an appropriate thing to yell out and interrupt the entire classroom. I don't know what he said to you or not, but you let everybody know. That's not cool. Just, all right, now in number 5, we got some variables. Oh no. We'll be fine. Okay, does the process change? How?
Because you have to split the variables.
But does the process of multiplying outside, multiplying inside change? No. So when we multiply on the outside, what's on the outside? 4. When we multiply the inside, we get 36 n cubed. Okay, now, when we talk about those variables, if it's an odd number, we need to split it apart. Thank you. Okay, what is the square root of 36? What about the square root of n squared? And then left underneath is our lonely n. So we have 24n square root of n.
Well, because if you square.
So n cubed is the same as n squared times n. Are you okay with that? Because there's 1, 2, 3 n's.
What happened to the 3?
Well, you got 2n.
Okay. The square root of n squared gives us n. Okay. How about you try number 6? Ready, set, go. You try number 6. I like hearing you work with your elbow partner. What? Did you say Miss Holman?
Miss Holman, do you want the X outside of the? Yeah, where do you put the X when you was 3 times 21?
3 times 100?
What if it's just X?
No, it's just.
What? So don't you end up with x squared under your square root? Okay, so Ellery, what's the square root of x squared? So then x comes outside of the radical.
So negative 1.
Wait. So you do that, right? So wouldn't it square that?
So since x squared is under the radical, it can come out as x.
So we just have.
Oh, light bulb came on. All right, let's talk about this one. Okay, you still haven't done them multiple. That's your problem, sorry. All right, so when we multiply the outside numbers, Henry, what do we get on the outside? -15. Okay, when we multiply underneath, Zayden, what do we have underneath? 300 x squared. So 2 times 15 is 30. So 20 times 15 is 30. Yeah. Okay. So now we have 300. Brooks, how'd you break up 300?
I tried. I have no idea how to break them up. So.
What perfect square can divide into 300?
103.
100 times 3.
And then x squared.
Okay, so we can say that the square root of 100 is 10. 3 gets to stay. What's the square root of x squared? X. So you should have negative 150x times the square root of 3.
Let's go.
Sorry? What's your question, sweetie? All right, you're doing number 7 now. So 75 can still be factored because it's 25 times 3. Okay, so what you can do, what do we do? We're gonna do number 7.
Okay, so it's like 45, so it's like, I have 5 and like 9.
It's X on this side.
Well, since x squared is under the radical, x comes out by itself.
Hopefully that's right.
Now you have the same. Okay, so how do you try this one? Multiply first, that'll make your life easier. Okay.
I don't know.
Usually
That's
yes. Yeah.
How do you know where the 3 and the 1 is? Like, you have to be here.
Okay, so can I see your pencil? So I know that, like, the square root of 300 is 100 times 3, right? I wrote it like this because 100 is my perfect square. The square root of 100 is 10, and 3 is not a perfect square, so I need to yes, but now you need to, hold on. Because this is 9 times 5, right? So 9 doesn't come out. What's the square root of 9? So it's 3 times 2. Does that make sense?
Oh, wait,
Okay.
did I do it?
Everything else is 100 though, so no.
Well, that's a science.
6. What's with the 6? 9 times 5.
Good stuff.
So is it right if it's a
They
5?
counted 0 out of
Yeah.
15 times 3 is not 75.
Down to a D once.
Everything's right except the W's. We need to talk about the W's. Okay. Okay, listen to me talk through number 7, because I know that you haven't been. So what we're doing is we're multiplying the outside, we're multiplying the inside, and then simplifying. Okay. All right, so when we multiply the outside, what do we get when we multiply the outside? 2. When we multiply the inside, 15 times 3 is 45. And then W cubed times W to the 4th is W to the 7th. Okay, now here's the deal, and here's where some people, I think where most of us are good with the numbers, some of us are still iffy with the variables. What perfect square divides into 45? 9 times 5. Okay. Do we have an even or an odd number of W's? So we're going to say W times W to the 6th. Okay. So we know that the square root of 9 is 3. 5 stays underneath. The square root of W to the 6th is W cubed. And then this W stays underneath.
So when you square the letters, you just divide them in half.
Yes, you mean square root?
Yeah.
Okay, so you should have 6W cubed square root of 5W. Okay, Ellery, are you okay with what happened to W to the 7th? Yeah? Okay. Okay. Kaylee, did you follow our steps? Okay. So here's what we're gonna do now. I want you to jump to number 9. Okay. What do you notice about number 9? There is subtraction. So we need to be careful with our order of operations. What comes first, multiplication or subtraction? So we need to do our multiplication first. Okay. We need to take 10 times 3 outside and 2 times 10 inside. Harry, is the square root of 20 simplified? Because what number can divide into it? Okay. The square root of 4. Are you like all the way to the end?
Yeah.
I'm done.
Can you wait for me? Okay. So this that I have in pink is 60 square root of 5. Do you agree with that? But we still have minus, you know what? It is such a coincidence that they are both radical 5. Do you think it's a coincidence?
No.
No, I think it was planned that way.
Nothing's a coincidence.
So we have like terms with our radical 5s. So we have 54 radical 5. Kyron, is that what you got for your answer?
Yes.
Okay. We have 5 minutes until the bell rings. Could you please turn to page 11? What do you mean both pages?
Well, it's on the top, it says this is a 2-page document.
But then it's not a 2-page document. You only can you just let me? You have 10 problems to do. I challenge you to get 1 through 4 done before the bell rings. Challenge is already done.